The Smiths with the track London from their only official live album called Rank. And we'll continue the news purge, my friends, here on the 198th episode of MediaMonarchy.com. And we have now made it to the murder and mayhem with a little bit of an update on the story we gave you last week, continuing the story of what, as we noted, Vanity Fair is calling the Quaid conspiracy, or the Star Whackers meme. Police link ex-con to death of Hollywood publicist Ronnie Chasen. This story is from Reuters, but you may recall we reported to you last week that as the police were closing in on someone they said was a suspect, he killed himself. Now they say the gun he used to kill himself was the gun used to kill Hollywood publicist Ronnie Chasen. Disneytown sees death for the second time in a week. And we get this from the Associated Press, Dateline, Celebration, Florida. Authorities were investigating whether another death Friday in the town Disney built just days after reporting its first homicide in its 14-year existence. This time it was a man who apparently killed himself after shooting at deputies. Craig Fouché, 52, barricaded himself in home last Thursday for more than 14 hours, according to an Osceola County Sheriff's Office report. He shot at deputies several times, but deputies never returned fire because they were unable to acquire a target, and no deputies were injured. Deputies entered the home early Friday and found him dead of an apparent self-inflicted gunshot wound. Sheriff spokeswoman Twiz Liza Swan said there had been no connection between Fouché and Matteo Patrick Giovandito, who was found slain in the condominium on Tuesday. That homicide was the first for Disney's master-planned, picture-perfect Central Florida community with 11,000 residents. Giovandito lived alone with his chihuahua and had been slain over the long Thanksgiving weekend, authorities said. Neighbors hadn't seen him for days, so they filed a missing persons report, then went into his condo a day later and found him. Death in Disney. Attorneys seek to squash, or quash, as they say, suspect interview in the William Bennett case. We get this from LeesburgToday.com, and longtime listeners may recall last year in great detail we went over the case of the seeming assassination of ex-CIA agent William Bennett while he was jogging in Loudoun County, Virginia. We, of course, noted he was killed on May 22nd, 322, the Skull and Bones number. He was involved in the faulty targeting that blew up the Chinese embassy in Belgrade. Just a bizarre, bizarre story, and we always try and add any links, as I'll tell you, as I think I've said before, but again, always trying to give out the little tips that, again, there's no magic secret to doing this show. Google words and phrases that interest you, and then subscribe to the feed of that search. Then you'll get the updates whenever that word or that phrase pops up in the news. That's how I get all these little tiny articles concerning the murder of William Bennett. Murdersuicide.blogspot.com reporting lady shooter pulls the trigger in Miami. We note in the murder and mayhem mass murder contagion that we report on quite extensively here. It's far more rare that women are involved in this. And the last note of murder and mayhem is one that I saw in the newspaper while I was at work on lunch break, but I wasn't able to copy it down or remember it. But again, thankfully, somebody sent it to MediaMonarchy@gmail.com. Mystery deepens around teen's body found in Milton, Massachusetts. Just how the shattered body of a North Carolina teenager ended up on a quiet Milton street is looking more like a mystery investigators from CSI might tackle. Authorities are weighing the possibility that Delvante Tisdale of Charlotte stowed away in the wheel well of an airplane bound for Logan International Airport, and that his body fell out when the landing gear was lowered over Milton. A U.S. Airways flight from Charlotte to Boston landed at Logan shortly after passing. Motorists discovered the teen's mutilated body on Briarbrook Street. Let's not get into any more of the gory details, literally, if I may abuse that overly abused word. With all the hubbub surrounding the TSA and all these other things going on, a kid can sneak into the wheel well of a plane. We have a couple notes of Oregon oddities. As we get a lot of our news of the weird from click2houston.com, Oregon man changes his name from Smith to Awesome. I believe that would be Captain Awesome. And there we have another meme of the Smiths. The other Oregon oddity, Oregon Super Darn radar is now operational for studying the upper atmosphere, the ionosphere, and connections into space. I can't fully wrap my mind around that, but Virginia Tech has something to do with it. So we reach the war whores at the end of this 12-9 news purge. Do you think you've made the right decision this time? Russia crashes Keen Sword, the largest ever U.S. and Japan war games. Russia crashed it with their own submarine hunting planes. As the grand chessboard and geopolitical scene gets more murky, as we also somehow see more of a revelation of the method, the very moment it becomes more obtuse and difficult is the same time that it's all becoming really apparent. And we close it out with allgov.com. Americans killed in Afghanistan this past November equals the last 7 years of Novembers. So 7 previous years of Novembers. From November 2001, November 2002, all the way up to 2009. November 2010 beats them all. And these are the wars that still rage. These are the things many of us were sold a bill of goods on, getting out of the wars. But we see just because an R changes to a D, we didn't see the head of the military change. But I digress. That closes out the 12-9 news purge with the title, Do You Think You've Made the Right Decision This Time? Taken from the song London that we played for you. In our remaining time here, we're going to hit 2 interesting and bizarre and even, yes, slightly amusing stories. As we joked in the intro, I suppose we'll start it off and say, something for the boys. I used to love to camp out and hike in the woods. Back in the middle school and high school days, I think when a lot of the other kids were getting into drinking and drugs and doing all that stuff, I didn't want to have anything to do with that. And me and my friends who also didn't want to have anything to do with that, and we were all kind of outcasts from our own respective circles we should have been in. One from the honors student, one from the sports team, We used to camp out a lot. But let's go to Montana, my friends. Unabomber's land for sale, offering a very secluded piece of history. Huge price reduction on Unabomber's property. These prices are insane. From CBS News, the one-of-a-kind western Montana property that was once owned by Unabomber Ted Kaczynski is back on the market for a bargain price of $69,000. The 1.4-acre parcel of land is listed by John Pistolak Realty of Lincoln and offers potential buyers a chance to own a piece of infamous U.S. history. The listing also states that the forested land is obviously very secluded. The Lincoln area property, which had been listed at $154,000, does not have electricity or running water, because Kaczynski was critical of technology. The property also does not include the cabin where Kaczynski was captured in April 1996 in his Unabomber-style shack. That's on display at the Museum in Washington, D.C. Hey, I've been there. Kaczynski's in a maximum security prison in Colorado, serving a life sentence after pleading guilty in 1998 to a nationwide bombing spree that spanned nearly 17 years, killed 3 people, and injured 23. The Harvard-trained mathematician railed against the effects of advanced technology and led authorities on the nation's longest and costliest manhunt before his brother tipped off law enforcement in 1996. Unabomber's land for sale, offering very secluded piece of history.
A Montana real estate agent is offering potential buyers a chance to own an infamous piece of U.S. history.